Hi, everybody. Day before the midpoint of the season for the Cleveland Browns against the Arizona Cardinals. Deshaun Watson back for the Browns for better or for worse. We'll take you through the talking points for tomorrow's game against the Arizona Cardinals. This is the Believe in Brits podcast.
Garrett's going to get him, and he knocks the ball away. Caught by Donovan Peoples-Jones. Touchdown! He got it! He got Chubb! He's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Wow, what a struggle. The way it should be, I guess. Brownies, here we go! Woo, woo. Here we go, Brownies!
I think after the trade on midweek with Donovan Peoples-Jones, I should probably stop playing that intro. We've got Chubb and DPJ out of that now. Not to mention the fact that Jim Donovan is otherwise indisposed for the year. So, maybe I should start looking at changing that intro. Anyway, welcome everybody to the Believe in Brits podcast, the eve of the Arizona Cardinals game week. Is it week 9? I think it might be week. Yeah, it's week 9. Yeah, exactly the midpoint of the NFL season. Whilst European eyes might be on the Chiefs and the Dolphins in my second home, Frankfurt am Main, we are indeed talking about all things Cleveland and Arizona. With me today, because we just can't seem to have the full trio on for scheduling reasons abound. Today with me is Owain Jones. Owain, how you doing, mate? Long time no see.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Looking forward to talking Browns today, and then looking forward to watching them tomorrow.
Well, that's said with an unerring confidence there. I don't think I quite share it. This has all the trappings of a trap game. The Arizona Cardinals, let's just go through a few interesting bits about them. So they're 1-7, of which, you start licking your lips there. They are awful in the passing game, 30th overall in terms of passing yards, with 196.6. They are 4th best on the ground, though, with 137.8, but you feel like that's out of necessity. They're starting Clayton Tune, according to Adam Schefter with ESPN. He only about 5 minutes ago at time of recording, it's now 1:30 in the afternoon in the UK on Saturday. According to Adam Schefter, Tune is likely to start. They're looking to give Murray an extra week's worth of rest before going at it for the rest of the season. Dobbs, of course, was traded to the Vikings in midweek. So, the passing game is going to be non-existent. So they're going to want to lean on their ground game and James Conner. Realistically, the only stats of note to Owain here is, the rushing yards per game and also the sacks as well. They've got 24 sacks, which is 9th best in the league, of which actually might help them because Deshaun Watson is back. Limited participant throughout most of the week, full participant at the end of the week. He was not given an injury designation, of which means that he will start. We're still unsure as to who will be QB2, actually, as to whether or not it will be DTR or PJ Walker, which is probably a good thing to know, considering as to how the Colts game went when Deshaun Watson came back prematurely. But, you look at that, the injury report for the Browns in terms of who's off, there's 2 players off. I know Greg Newsom's one. I can't think of who the other one is off the top of my head. But, you look at that, you look at everything else. I mean, IT is it could be a trap game, but like you say, Owain, and, I'll let you touch on it a bit more and what you think is the most important thing to note this week. It is actually really exciting and a chance to go 5-3 on the year.
Yeah, and I think, good teams will take care of this type of performance. And, if we want to be a team of note this year, if we want to get to the playoffs, if we want to do something in the playoffs, you can't be losing games like this. I know Dallas is the one win on Arizona's record, which is kind of notable to say that you can't really write them off. But, a 1-7 team starting a rookie at QB, the defense should be licking their chops at that. And then obviously, like you said, Watson returning. I don't even think he has to be all that good tomorrow. I think he just needs to be tidy. He needs to not give the ball away, and then as long as that happens, the Browns should win comfortably. Whether he can do that or not, I'm not sure. Obviously, last time we saw him, it was quite the opposite. He looked like he was trying to give the ball away every time he touched it. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's why I'm excited, really, because the season pins on Deshaun Watson. He's back tomorrow. We get to see him for the first time, hopefully healthier than he was last time. And we get to see if he can start to get into the rhythm again to carry us into what's going to be a crucial stretch of games over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Do you see this? I mean, no disrespect to Arizona or anything like that. I still expect a tough game, regardless. Baltimore were given a tough game. Arizona have also created tough games down the stretch as well. Seattle only won by 10. Cincy by a couple of touchdowns, but that was late. They've beaten Dallas as well on the way. Obviously, the QB situation there does sort of give you a little bit more breathing room as well. Do you see this as, we're still unsure on Watson, but if there was a game to bleed him in before the AFC North stretch of games, you got Baltimore and Pittsburgh coming up. This is the opportune time to see as to how that shoulder actually is instead of going up against that Ravens defense next week.
Yeah, I think that would have played quite heavily into the decision-making process when it came to Watson and playing this week. I think it would have been naive for them to chuck him out there without practicing or playing in over a month in a crucial game against a tough team next week. I think that would have been a tough situation for the team to be in. It would have been a tough situation for Watson to be in. So I think to do it this way, how they're going to do it this week and playing them in a game that they should win regardless really of how Watson plays, as long as he doesn't, actively play badly. They should win.
No guarantees. No guarantees, folks.
But yeah, it should be a game where he can sort of boost his confidence in his shoulder. He should be able to boost his confidence in the way he can play because, again, last time we saw him play, he played really poorly. But it could also go the other way. There's no guarantees. Like you said, he plays well. But you would rather him go and test some things tomorrow than go into that Ravens game, in a similar fashion to how we went into the last Ravens game and then be in a real mess there. So yeah, hopefully it goes swimmingly tomorrow, and he can get some confidence going into these two crucial division games.
Yeah, it's crazy actually when you see this on the calendar, on the schedule at the start of the year. You kind of dismiss the game almost, and especially with the records and the way that that's worked out. And when you consider, the rookie QB of it all, etc., you can laver on the optimism and everything else. But this is actually a really important game. You've got the QB situation, first of all, ourselves and getting Watson back up to scratch, as you say, before the Ravens and the Steelers. But then you look at the actual playoff implications as well. These are games you cannot afford to lose. It's a pressure cooker situation. You need to be able to keep you need to keep that momentum going because the AFC North is just a juggernaut at the moment. It's going to be a case of you probably need 11 wins if you're going to, come out as, top 3 in the AFC North and given a wild card spot. It seems very competitive. And to do that, these are the games that you need to win. The Browns probably can only afford 2 more losses. 2 to 3 at most, and can't burn one here. So you start looking at it from that perspective. I think that I saw a playoff projection model this morning of which said that the Browns had a 50% chance of being in the playoffs if they won today, but 34% if they lost. So that just shows you the swing. I think only the Bengals have got a bigger swing in terms of their win-loss. and the way that messes up their playoff chances as well. So it's a big week for the AFC North in that rate. Just a couple of Spencer. First of all, cheers for your messages, mate. Nice to see you back and keeping me honest. James Conner is injured. Yes, that's right. He can't return until week 10. That was a blunder by me. And just this little note as well from you in terms of not sure we can judge him based on the Colts game. The last time he played was against Tennessee, and it was the best he's played in a Browns jersey. Noted, but since then he can't seemingly throw with any zip. And the time where he did say that he could come out and play, he put that on. You're only as good as the last time you dressed. So, you can't dismiss it. And I think Owain, you'd back me up there. You can't dismiss as to what's there, especially when we still don't know what his shoulder's actually like.
Yeah, I think the most concerning thing to me about those, 5 snaps or whatever it wasn't the fact that he couldn't put a lot of zip on it. It was the decision-making process.
Yeah.
We've talked at length since he's been a Brown about how much time he wants to throw. He wants to hold on to the ball and before throwing it. And, that got him into trouble that game. He can't afford to do that now, especially with his shoulder being the way it is. He can't afford to try and play superhero ball where he's, risking even more hits. He's risking more sacks. Like, he's going to have to get into the process of, finding his first, second read and just getting the ball.
And he can't do that here either. Arizona are good at getting to the quarterback. 24 sacks this season. They're top half in terms of getting to the QB. So, it's definitely a concern there. Whether or not he was rushed back is a question mark, but he has that in his arsenal where he takes too long to throw the ball, as you say, Owain, and then 7 out of 10 times he throws to his first read anyway. He's one of the he's one of the most prominent QBs at throwing to his first read.
Yeah, so that's kind of concern. That's more of a concern to me than the shoulder. I said that after the Colts game that it was his decision making and how long he took to make those decisions that was more concerning to me than his shoulder, especially on that sort of corner out to Goodwin that he got picked off. To me, it wasn't so much that he'd underthrown the ball. He did underthrow the ball, but it was more that if he was like a second or so quicker on his read, second or so quicker to throw the ball, Goodwin would probably had a touchdown even with that lack of zip. So that's what concerns me about tomorrow. But they're coming up against a secondary that's legitimately terrible. The corners, you probably couldn't name them. I can only name one of them because he was of interest to me in a draft a couple of years ago in Garrett Williams. But he coming off a pretty serious injury last year and coming into the NFL as a rookie this year. So the only one that really concerns you is Buda Baker when it comes to defending against the pass. So yeah, as long as he's just getting the ball out quicker and being more decisive, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was the lack of quick decision making was because he was unsure of his shoulder, potentially. But we just can't afford to see that tomorrow. And I think if he does show that tomorrow, it puts us in risk of him being injured for those 2 critical games coming up. And like you say, they can't afford to take tomorrow lightly because they lose tomorrow. You go into the biggest 2-game stretch of the season coming up.
Oh, and the sky falls. The sky falls tomorrow.
Over. If they lose the next 3, the season's over, and then it becomes an almighty mess after that. So they have to start.
I mean, you know what this fan base is like anyway, Owain. We lose tomorrow, the sky falls, and there's no way to pick yourself up.
The sky's been falling in wins. Like the last time we won a game, there were still calls for Stefanski to get fired. So, like, that was exacerbated by a defeat last week and the way the defeat came. If they then go and lay an egg tomorrow against the worst team in the NFL, that's only going to get a lot worse. And then, obviously, if they lose tomorrow, you couldn't see them then beating the Ravens and the Steelers back-to-back as well. So they have to start this 3-game stretch off on a positive tomorrow. I expect them to. I expect them to do it quite comfortably, and so would the bookmakers. And they're never usually that wrong. I know I'm tempting fate a little bit by saying that.
I
They
was going
never.
to say I've won against the bookies a few times this year.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not usually 10 points.
Is
It's
it
not usually
10?
a 10-point swing. I think the line at the minute is at 9.5. So you'd need a 10-point swing from
Okay.
what the bookies expect to happen. So
Yeah, it's all right. I've yet to put on my handicap Aki for the week. I've not yet won one this season from one leg each week. And what was it last week? What did me last week? It was the Chiefs did me last week. That's right. That and Philly didn't quite cover what I put down. Yeah, but I've been quite right for the rest of it there. Most people got done over by the Steelers on Thursday. I know that much. People
I got done
expected.
in the pick'ems with it, yeah. By the way, I've forgotten to do my pick'ems the last 2 weeks, which has probably killed my whole season. But
Now I was going to raise this
Yeah.
because it seemed very unlike you to be underneath me, of which I took great pride in.
Yeah.
I think that you're only about 4 points behind. You might even be less than that, actually. I'm trying to bring it up now in true Pickham's website style. Here we go. It's finally loaded. So I've been on a tear. I'm like 390th overall now. It's quite something. Let's see. Owain, you have 74 and I've got 79 because it does automatically pick the most popular, I believe, if you leave them blank.
Yeah, I think so. So I did pick up a few points, but I completely forgot about it the last 2 weeks. So I'm back on the train this week and hopefully start to pick up some points again.
Yeah, big shout out to a regular listener on the show as well. Mark Bartel, you are currently top of the leaderboard with 81. I'm coming for you though. I'm only 2 points behind you again now. It's been a long time coming, but the comeback is indeed on. Oliver is just behind on 80. Would have been leading actually had you had picked the Steelers. And I've got Scott behind me, 1 point behind me, and then there's quite the gap because you're not on the Browns one by the looks of it. Owain, it goes from 78 to 70 between fourth and fifth, so the battle is quite tense at the top. I quite like that. I tell you what, let's because realistically, I think that we know what we're looking at in terms of in terms of the offense, defense, etc. It's just a case of getting it done cleanly without the turnovers. Win the turnover battle, but keep the turnover battle quite low. I'd be very, very happy winning the turnover battle 1-0. I don't care as long as it was like a 0 or a 1 in our column, and 1, 2, 3, however many in the other column. I don't mind. I just want a nice, boring win. When was the last time we had a nice, boring win?
Yeah, you'd have to go back quite a while. Like Spencer saying it's worth a few quid, us minus 9.5. I would not say the same. I can't remember the last time we were like really that comfortable. So if I was going to put any money on the line tomorrow,
as in not the one just gone, like playoff year Titans.
Yeah, Titans was the one I was thinking of. But even then, like towards the end of the second half, we started playing like prevent defense, the classic Joe Woods, and it started to swing back the other way. But Bengals.
Apologies, Spencer. Yeah, week 1 Bengals. That one. I mean, that was our kickoff party. That still just feels like an alcohol-addled dream. I wouldn't say the Titans one this year was necessarily all that much of a runaway. To be honest with you, Spencer, I still definitely felt like they could come back towards the end of that one, but maybe that's just. Maybe that's just that was my first day in Japan, so maybe I was just a little jet lagged. Who knows? Owain, what is your score prediction for this one?
It's really tough in it to put a prediction on what our offense is going to put up tomorrow. I feel quite comfortable that our defense is going to be pretty strong.
All right, I tell you what. Let me give you some hypotheticals, right? Because you're basically saying it depends on Watson's shoulder, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that Watson is able to operate comfortably enough that you couldn't tell that he had an issue.
If that
So
was
he
the
was just
case, I
coming
would,
back off an injury, right? But no discernible notice of the
if that
shoulder.
was the case, I wouldn't expect him to play a full game. Like weirdly, I wouldn't
Hmm.
expect him to play a full game. I think if we were relatively comfortable going into the fourth quarter, I think they'd probably sit him and maybe put DTR in.
So
But
if you're saying if we're like 20-ish points up, like
yeah,
halfway through the third, for example, we do
yeah,
what we did
I
against the
think
Titans,
that's
essentially.
yeah, I think that's when we start to take Watson out and then put DTR in. So I think I'm going to go for 24 points to 10. And I think
Okay.
those 10 points come in garbage time.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. In that situation, I'm going to say 31-17. Just because I still think that they'll find a way on the ground. We seem to be taking a lot of hits on defense at the moment, and as a rushing team, they're able to take advantage of a little bit of that. One at the start, and then, like you say, garbage time. Then afterwards. Now, let's say that Watson was not quite Colts bad, but let's say that he's prone to the odd twinge in the shoulder.
I'd still expect us to win in that scenario, but I would probably go down to like maybe 18-14 because, if he's not far off the Colts, then the Cardinals may get some short field. So I'd expect them to put up a couple more points. But I'd still expect us to win either way, I think.
Yeah, so I think that we're both just laughing at Spencer putting 34-6 for the if Watson's comfortable and 34-9 if he's not. I'm not quite sure as to how we continue to put 34 in both situations, but yeah, I just have this feeling that DTR comes in and is all of a sudden totally fine in that final quarter scenario. But yeah, fantastic. I tell you what, since we touched on Pick'ems, just to finish it off, I'll give you a few of the closer games this week. So there's a few meaty games this week, and we'll both put our opinions on it. Let me just grab that up. So the Frankfurt game, Dolphins at Chiefs at the Deutsche Bank Park.
I tell you what, that's got the makings of a really good game, isn't it? I think
It really does.
that would be an early kickoff for us, right? The same as
2:30. Yeah.
okay, that's nice. I like it when we've got like so I tend to go to bed normally like midway through the second slate.
Yeah. So about 10:30, 11
Yeah,
o'clock
half 10,
ish. Yeah.
11. But like this when the clocks go back for us, that gives us an extra hour of football, and then when you add in like an early kickoff as well, oh, it's
It's gone now. That was
that's
last
gone.
week.
There was only 1
Yeah,
week.
yeah. So it's
Oh,
2:30,
devastated,
6 and 9s.
devastated. But still,
Yeah,
still,
I
still
was
an
going to
extra
put
game
that
in there.
PSA out there because I knew
Yeah,
that someone would forget.
we still have an extra game in there, so can't complain too much. I'd take the Dolphins in this one. I think Mahomes
Yeah.
starting to be
So
some questions about him, which is going to be an interesting to see a response from him. But I think the Dolphins are really strong, and I just think they get it done.
yeah, both obviously licking wounds. I've gone with the Chiefs just because I think that they, you see a response in terms of losses.
I will say like that. I think I said this with Sean when we were going through ours when there was London games. I think there's a ton of weight you have to put on how the teams prepare. I don't know when they've flown over to Germany this week, but we said I think it was when the
The Titans.
Ravens played the Titans, and I think the Ravens flew to London on a Monday, and the Titans didn't get there till a Thursday. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Yeah, Ravens are going to smash them," because I do think like the way teams
Both
prepare
teams
has.
are well versed, though. Both of these teams have done international games multiple times. They've both won multiple times.
There we are.
So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much on it. It's
Yeah.
not like you've got a newcomer that goes, yeah, we're just going to treat it like a standard away game, all the rest of it. Because those are the teams, like you say, that usually lose. I remember when the Browns played the Vikings and Hugh Jackson said, yeah, we're going to fly out on the Friday. And we're like, what? No. You can't expect us to be anyway. No wonder we went flipping 0-16 like that. But yeah, I totally get where you come. I think that both are able to prep for that one, of which should still be a very interesting game. 2:30 for that one. I don't believe it's on normal terrestrial television. I think that is Sky or Game Pass. Next interesting one. I'm trying to find ones of which look a little juicy. Would you say Rams Packers is juicy? Yeah, I would. So here's an interesting one for you. Packers are the favourites with the bookies. 75% to pick the Rams.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. It's a really tough one to call because I've seen the Rams play a couple of games this year and look really, really good. And then sometimes they look awful. It's probably more on Stafford and the way he plays. When he plays really, really well, they look really good. And then, when he plays average, then you can see the holes in that roster. I would take the Rams. I'll be honest. I would take the Rams because I really don't
So
believe them.
I've put Rams on, but I'm on Stafford watch. Stafford is questionable, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a case of just keeping an eye on that.
Maybe,
I think that's why the Packers price is where it is.
Yeah. I was about to say maybe the bookies know something that everyone else doesn't.
Yeah. We'll bypass Bucks, Texans. Commanders, Patriots is exactly 50-50 in the mid-off of the week.
They both stink.
I know it's a complete mid-off, but it's one of those where you're like, it's a toss-up. I've gone for the Patriots because I feel like they've got a bit of momentum, but
plus, like, touching on the Commanders for a second, like they've had such a bad week in terms of like what they've done in the trade market for me. Like trading away Chase Young for a 3rd-round pick is just mind-boggling. I don't know what's happening there with his health. Like long term, maybe they don't really believe in his knees or whatever, but like he's had a good season this year. They've traded away their other, edge rusher in Montez
for
Sweat.
a third,
another third.
What?
Like I can sort of understand that one because like they would look like they were going to lose one of them, but like to trade both of them for a third doesn't make much sense to me. And then to ask for a third for Brissett as well is
exactly. And this is why when the trade deadline sort of came around and we saw that Chase Young was moving for a third, I then start thinking a fifth might get this done here. We'd obviously heard that realistically they weren't shifting from a day 2 pick, but if you're selling Chase Young for a third and you're basically being seen as sellers in the market, what are you doing?
Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense to me. By the way, just obviously we're speaking about the Bears trading Montez Sweat. Him then going to the Bears.
Yeah.
And then saying basically, I'm not re-signing after the, sorry, it wasn't even a third, it was a second that they gave up.
Right.
The Bears. And it was their own second as well. Similar to what they did with the Steelers last year.
And what, he's already said that he's not signing?
Basically, I think he said something along the lines of like, I'm an Atlanta boy. They were interested in trading for me, but then decided not to. I'm with the Bears now, and I won't be making any contractual decisions until the end of the season because I'm focused on this season. So basically, what that tells me is he's a Falcon in free agency. Wow. So that means last year the Bears burnt pick number 30. Ended up being number 32 because the Dolphins forfeited their first round.
Yeah.
So the Bears gave up number 32 for Chase Claypool, who's not on the roster anymore. And then they're going to have given up pick 33 for Montez Sweat for literally what? 7 games when they have got
For
no
7 games, that doesn't matter because it's actually pulling you further away from a brilliant draft class.
Oh, if I was a Bears fan, I would be seething at that general manager.
Yeah. I mean, we know a thing or two about being seething at general managers, but you know, there have been some in recent memory with other teams that makes you think, was it that bad? I mean, the answer is yes, it was, but also, was it that bad? Yeah.
Let's go back to the original question.
Yeah, Commanders Patriots was the original
Yeah.
question.
I'll take the Patriots just because Bill Belichick against young QBs tends to be a mess. So I'll
Yeah.
I'll take the Patriots.
That's fair. I'm going to give you just the one more. Bills Bengals.
Oh,
It's at Bengals, if that helps.
again, tricky, isn't it? Because like
Yeah.
the Bills have not been great this season. Bengals sort of done their usual, start sloppy and then build up. I'm gonna try and reverse jinx it and go Bengals and hope that the jinx works and the
Yeah,
Bills
so
come
I've
through.
done the same. 2/3 of people have also stuck on the Bengals as well. I think they're feeling the momentum swing in that direction. The Bills are a little bit of a mess, you know, in that they get it done, but they don't get it done cleanly, which will be interesting to see this week. Bit of a dead rubber of a flipping Monday game. Chargers Jets. That's flipping annoying. But it means more to be able to watch on the Sunday slate, of which is good for us. And that's where we'll leave it for this week. So obviously a lot to look forward to. Big game. Don't think that just because it's Arizona on the piece of paper that it's not a big game. I think that every game for the Browns at the moment is a big one, especially if the playoffs is the goal. And it absolutely is, especially with how the AFC North is picking up. Don't forget to fill out your pick'ems if you're part of the leagues. Owain, that's a special warning to you as well. Although, take another week off, mate. Take another one off. I'd like to build that gap to you. I mean, very unfamiliar territory. Usually by this point, you're like 10 points ahead of me. But yeah, so that's it for us for the pre-show. The post-show will most likely be with Sean and Owain because I'm in London trying to get my US visa sorted out. Don't go to Cuba, guys, and then think you can go to America. It's a pain in the ass. It costs you twice as much and makes you go through a whole rigmarole. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. No matter where the cruise goes, just don't get that passport stamped. So yeah, Sean and Owain will take you through the results of it, hopefully with a Browns victory and a victory Monday. And until then, go Browns. And you've been listening to the Believe in Brits podcast.